Welcome everyone, Further Studies English Grade 11. I'm going to do my best here to record a lesson. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. I hope it works. Let's give it our very best shot. So the promise for this particular lesson, and I think about 20 minutes to follow or so, from my end, is that you will enjoy a better understanding of interpreting a rhetorical opportunity. And the way to understand that really is in terms of its audience. So in a strange sense, we start with the audience when we enjoy a rhetorical opportunity in order to streamline and maximize that opportunity. So what is a rhetorical opportunity? I'm going to teach that by virtue of examples. So a newspaper article is a rhetorical opportunity. It's a chance for you to write or speak, in this case write, and you get to inform the audience about things that matter to them or hopefully matter to them. Interviews. An interview is another rhetorical opportunity where you get to persuade the audience of your viewpoint, which is not too bad, not too shabby. And then exams, those are fairly unique and ephemeral rhetorical opportunities that we use to mirror your progress at school and in your university. And so there you really have an opportunity to impress the gatekeepers, those people who have the authority to make the decision about whether you have joined the conversation, and they will also, of course, help you progress in life. So, what is the common denominator here? All of these opportunities and the many others that we haven't mentioned have a golden thread that runs through them, and that is they have an audience. It's still just communication. Despite the fact that we have diversified this into so many forms, it's just a matter of communication after all these years. Can you believe it? And therefore the audience is paramount. What do we want to do with them? What do we want to achieve? Those are the important questions. So the audience and the needs of the audience, in other words, those we write to, the readers, those we speak to, the listeners, they get to determine the nature and shape of the piece to be written or spoken. Now, I said they get to. I want to rephrase that. I think it's not only a matter of that they determine that, it's also a matter of that we would want to do that. So clearly the writing of a lit essay, which we've spoken about a bit, with its Byzantine origins, offers another rhetorical opportunity. Now, if we want to complete this with some punch and some success, we want to know who our audience will be, and we want to work with that audience. So, strictly speaking, and rather blandly, the audience will be an examiner who gets paid to mark your work, but of course it is so much more. So guys, the important thing to recognize about this particular audience, and remember there are many different kinds of audiences. They can be diverse audiences, they can be multiple audiences. In this case, it's a specialized audience, and that has all kinds of implications. Now, let's just explore this kind of audience those who will be reading your literary essay. It will be, it will comprise readers or a reader who loves literature, knows it well, and wants to understand it even better. That last bit is why that audience will be reaching out to others and will want to know what they think about the literature. In other words, there is kind of value. There are values underpinning the activities of this kind of audience. And those values are things like curiosity, reflection, thinking about things, enjoying excellent literature, and so on. Now, what I've noticed in this year of teaching in the IEB and this year of teaching further studies is that this audience involves the kind of reader who wants to see that the literary texts that you have studied have shaped your opinion. Look at that. We may well say that perhaps this is the highest value of reading literary artworks. That this is the ultimate achievement, the crowning achievement of such reading, is that these works have an ability to shape our opinion, and on the most nuanced levels, even of feelings, and certainly in terms of understanding, and certainly in terms of getting to grips with what it means to be around. Literary texts will confront us with some of the most difficult choices. And what do people do under those circumstances? And what are the consequences? And so on and so forth. I'm trying to think of an example, and hopefully I'll get back to one before the end of this lecture. Now, note that this is important for you, because especially as school pupils, we may tend to be a little shy, and then also as readers, because we tend to be introverts. It's usually an introvert who really falls in love with literature and sitting on their own for hours and just soaking in all that reading. However, NB, important note, an extravagant extrovert like me can have their own version of this, and my version is that it feels to me as if I'm meeting someone when I'm reading a good book. I get the same feeling when I listen to a symphony. I get the same feeling when I go out to the veld and I encounter an amazing little butterfly there, or especially a colony of little butterflies hanging out together there in a patch of veld. It seems to me like I'm meeting someone. What I mean by that, quite technically, is that it seems to me that the brain circuit that gets involved with meeting a person, in person, gets activated when I read a good book. Same goes for symphony, same goes for the creatures of the veld. So that's really the resemblance there. But in any event, what is so remarkable about this rhetorical opportunity that we're talking about is that this audience will actually be interested in the destiny of your opinions. And they are therefore actually interested in your opinions as such. Hence my mentioning of the introvert. The introvert in us will probably want to shy away a bit from banging out their opinion. The good news there is that you don't have to bang it out. You can actually put it on the page with great care. But we might tend, depending also on our culture, to hide a little bit, to hide our opinion a little bit. For example, you can hide your opinion behind quotations and remarks. Now, most distinctly, guys, you'll have to kick that habit, and I think you've been doing so quite successfully in this case. I see clearly now, after a year, that these examiners, at least for the moment, are really interested in your opinion. What do you think about the matter? How has the literature shaped, formed your opinion? And so you can state your opinion, and then you can say that in this text you have found that the opinion differs, or that the opinion is given a kind of nuanced treatment. Please don't put it formally like that. Just go ahead and say what it actually did. This is an activity, this is action. It's not, it mustn't drown or die in nouns like, I then found that my opinion was changed by. Don't do that. Just give your opinion and just show how the literature shapes it. We can talk about that a little bit further when we see one another pretty soon. So this audience, these examiners, want to see that you've engaged the text, or the texts at hand, to the extent that it has shaped your perceptions. Now, that's quite something. Can literature do that? Does it have the power to do that? In my own case, I can certainly vouch for it. I have certainly been influenced by reading, and there are cases where I think the influence has been lasting. For example, The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky, The Wasteland or Four Quartets by T.S. Eliot, Saul Bellows' Herzog or Ravelstein, just to name a few, are books that changed me. They reached the nerve ends of my being, and they somehow made changes there, and I think I can't even describe them. It's a pity that I didn't have a lot of scientific meters and stuff just to measure those. But in any event, what a delight it has been as well. I've also learned values from literature, like self-irony. I tend to be a fairly serious person, and I've learned in literature, which excels at teaching this, that I shouldn't take myself so seriously. These are just one or two examples, guys. So, in summary, your audience is a specialized one. They are keenly interested in literature, the discussion around literature, the way in which literature shapes our opinions. Therefore, what to do? How is this useful? Know that your understanding of the text or texts will be appreciated, and make the most of the opportunity to state your understanding of the text or texts. Guys, wow, it seems pretty obvious, doesn't it? But a reminder that sometimes things are so obvious that they're difficult to see, and a reminder that sometimes it's very healthy for us just to remind ourselves of obvious things. Sometimes they really are the important matters. Clearly in IEB and in further studies in particular, give your opinion. Give it. Just say it. Say what you think about whatever the topic happens to be. Show how the text or text shaped that opinion. My sense is that we need to talk about that a little bit. Show that you've engaged the text or texts extensively and deeply. From a cynical perspective, we would say that this is what it's all about. The examiner really just wants to see that you've actually read the material and you've read it well, And one way of testing that you've read it well is to ask for your opinion and how it's been shaped. That cynical viewpoint is true only to this extent, that without a thorough reading of the texts, the whole thing falls flat. Guys, and I think because we're still maturing as writers of literary essays, this means that you really have to stick to matters literary. On the negatively formulated, don't dip into your general knowledge in this rhetorical, in the case of this rhetorical opportunity, because then you're going to miss the audience. And they're not going to know what to do with what you're writing there. They really seriously want to discuss the literature with you. And that must be your focus from the beginning, in the middle, at the start, at the end, all over the place, everywhere. Which means that you have to be able to focus. But before I get to that, remember that we've got 600 words. Now that's a decision among us, as I've indicated, but it's a good one. And I don't want to change it for a moment, for the moment, rather. But 600 words means you can hardly waste a word on anything else but the literature. Also given that the topic will be complex, it will be layered. There will probably be a prompt quotation or a prompt poem for you to work with. And there will probably be one or two immersions, as we've seen, or one or two themes, as we've seen, that you also need to get into the mix. And then on top of that, and I'm sorry for hammering on this, I've repeated it probably too often in our lessons, for which I apologize. I'm not underestimating your intelligence. I'm just taking into account that you live in a world crammed with voices and opinions and things to do and things not to do. So, given all that, understand that there's very little room for you, very little space to waste, so to speak, and you need to focus and keep focusing. And so that brings me to the topic for the next of these little video lessons, finding and sustaining focus in the literary essay, with a final note. See that we've already found the main way of finding and sustaining your focus, and that is simply by keeping the reader in mind and knowing who the reader is and knowing what the reader will be on the lookout for, and satisfying that need while at the same time wonderfully and beautifully giving your own opinion about matters, shaping your own opinion about matters, which has become so enormously important in our own time, where people just have one opinion, they just stick to it, they can't budge, it's cast in stone or cement or coal or something, iron, and they flatly refuse to budge on that opinion, and moreover they vilify and demonize and dehumanize others who don't share the same opinion. Now you can already see the value of literature in terms of this context, because the literature, if nothing else, and I'm not going to say forces us, I'm going to say it persuades us to see things from a little bit of a different angle. And that's just brilliant and beautiful, especially when it's beautifully done in a well-written text. I hope this will also inspire you guys to grab various rhetorical opportunities. If we're fortunate even to write a novel or a poem of your own that will have that hard to measure but crucial influence. See you next time.